Glencadam 15 versus Glenmorangie 15 Cadboll Estate. Which way should you go for your up-shelf Highland malt? Stay tuned for the Whiskey Whistle. Hello, my whiskey people. Mark Kaufman here for Whisky Whistle on YouTube, sharing a little whiskey awesomeness from Winnipeg, the center of North America, with part 2 of my 15-year-old Scotch single malt series. This time we're moving up to the Highlands. We've got Glencadam 15 versus Glenmorangie 15. I think probably a great matchup here. There's a few differences. There's a few similarities. They're both ex-bourbon matured. Glenmorangie Cadboll Estate. This is estate barley. So that is one major difference. Glencadam 15 is 46% ABV. It's unchill filtered, natural in color. Glenmorangie Cadboll Estate 43%. And no mention about chill filtration or color, whether color's been added or not with Glenmorangie Cadboll Estate. Let's get these poured. First of all, Glencadam. Probably you've not tried Glencadam. A few of my viewers will have tried it. However, the core, the regularly commenting friends of mine who follow me here on YouTube, will have tried Glencadam, probably the 10, the 15, and maybe even the 21. Okay, Glenmorangie Cadboll Estate. Somewhere I have a bottle of Glenmorangie Cadboll, which was a travel exclusive release. They discontinued it, however, and they went back to age statements for travel release. Excellent. And then they used that the name Cadboll Estate for their estate barley. And let me just read what that says exactly for you so that you are in the know. Spirit crafted from our Cadboll Estate barley. Matured in ex-bourbon, American oak bourbon casks, pardon me. Blah, 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 blah. Just tasting notes back there. We won't read those. Okay. All right. Anyway, so here on Whiskey Whistle, we'll check out the color of the whiskey. Then we'll have a look at the legs and what they tell us about, hopefully, what type of mouthfeel we'll have here. After that, we'll start with the Glencadam and go through the nose, the palate, the finish, neat, and then with water, and then give it a Whiskey Whistle whiskey score, and then follow the same process, the same iterative methodology for Glenmorangie. And then we'll talk about just comparisons here. Price comparison, there's not that much difference. Probably the Glenmorangie Cadboll Estate is, maybe $30 or $40 more here in the Canadian market. If there's a big discrepancy for you where you are, please leave a comment. And if you've tried both of these and you've got them at home and you've been comparing them, please let me know your thoughts on these. We'll have a look at the color first of all. So a very light pale straw kind of color, very light gold, like 10K, if that. Almost like worn off gold plating. You know what I mean? For the Glencadam. The Glenmorangie, it's got a particular orange little sheen glow to it. And people who are watching who've been drinking a lot of great whiskeys, we all know that this just is not a natural shade. However, one thing we'll talk about is the use of casks. Glenmorangie has stated publicly that they only use first and second fill ex-bourbon casks. And probably if they're using second fill casks, the previous fill was their 10 years for their 10-year-old. So that makes sense. So they're still very active casks. I'm guessing with the Glencadam, we probably do have some lower fill, like third fill, probably not fourth fill. So I would say it's going to be a lot of second fill, a little bit of first fill, and a little bit of fourth fill as well. Third fill, pardon me. And not to say that that's bad. Third fill can be amazing. The cask is good quality. It does a nice job of holding that liquid for 15 years and providing it with something. So even third fill for 5 years could be interesting. It'll be a little more spirit driven, however. Okay, so we're going to get into the legs. That's right, that's what's next. And before that, make sure you subscribe to Whisky Whistle right over here. Hit the bell, ding ding, so you're notified of future Whisky Whistles. And if you're really enjoying Whisky Whistle, then check me out on Patreon and also on buymeacoffee.com and join the Whisky Whistle crew. Patreon.com/Whisky Whistle and buymeacoffee.com/Whisky Whistle. Joining the crew, you'll get your name and the credits at the end of each video. Check out those credits and see who's in there and see where your name might fit. And you'll also get advanced viewership, advanced viewing of future Whisky Whistles, like this one, about a day, sometimes 12 hours, occasionally a little bit shorter, but I try to keep it to at least 12 or 16 hours before actually releasing to the public. So you'll get the first chance to view new videos. And last but not least, you'll earn yourself your Whisky Whistle Glencairn glass with enough viewership. And I'm working on t-shirts. This is a prototype. There's going to be some changes. I don't like the texture here. It's a little bit off-putting. So I'll find something more suitable. Check this out. Boom. What do you think of that? I kind of like it. My kids are like, Daddy, why do you have tic-tac-toe Whisky Whistle on your back? Tic-tac-toe Whisky Whistle. And I just cracked up. That was just too funny. Really, really funny. Okay, the legs. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so let's check these legs out together. Thicker legs with Glenmorangie, slower legs with Glencadam, and that is interesting. Okay. Hopefully you can see that too. I know it's hard to see. I've got to figure out a better, I don't know, leg cam or something. So let's get into Glencadam, 15-year-old. Super excited about this. I have wanted a bottle of this forever. It just has never made it onto my shelf. Now into my whiskey room, which is still under construction. Now, the nose is a beautiful, light, fresh pear. Some light, sweet citrus, like Christmas orange rinds, mandarin orange rinds. Maybe canned mandarin oranges. Almost like a fresh can of a top quality fruit cocktail, and you pull that lid off, and you get this intense fruit aroma. I can also smell some sweet ginger. Some light white peach. And a nice swirl of vanilla woven through there. Really excellent. Let's check out that palette. Cheers, folks. It comes out of the gate very astringent, but all those fruits are there, including some really nice white chocolate. The good stuff. So cocoa butter and sugar, and it's sweet, and it's buttery, and it still has this remnant of cocoa chocolate flavor in there. The second sip, it's still quite tart, fruity tartness. But it's got a zinginess to it, and you get into the finish and you've got this sherbety, crisp, juicy, just fruit melange of flavors. Quite interesting. One more sip. Neat. Some apple skins. That white chocolate coming through. Something like the intensity of cranberry, but not cranberry, just like maybe underripe gooseberry. Yeah, that's a good thought there. Okay. I'm going to add 10 drops here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 drops. A little bit more than half a milliliter. Put that there. Still missing my my wonderful Angels, what is it called? The Angels Share, my little pipette. Okay, now I'm going to agitate this, take a quick whiff. Leather, oak furniture, like polished oak furniture. A little bit of hay, but in the winter when it's been, decomposed, that's a bad word. When the hay has aged a little bit in the barn. And there's still something kind of like, tinned fruit cocktail in there. A little bit more white chocolate, underripe gooseberry. You may not have tried gooseberries before, but you might be able to find gooseberry jam. And I'd say it's definitely worth trying it. Try something new, right? And the mouthfeel is oily. Look at how cloudy it is. This is what happens when things are unchill filtered. It can no longer remain crystal clear. All sorts of flavorful compounds that are coming out of solution here. Flocking, people call it flocking. You can call it cloudiness, haziness, or as people from Scotland like to say, it's like Highland mist. That's it. Super fruity. We still have astringency there. I could add more water. I'm not going to. This is pretty much perfect. But for some people, in 30 milliliters, they might want to add 50 drops of water, or about 3 milliliters. Super waxy, oily mouthfeel now. It's fruity, it's savory. Much fruitier than savory, but it's that savory note is there. All of the fruits I mentioned. That buttered bread / hay note. And a nice fruity astringent finish. Not overly astringent, but just right. That finish is just perfect. And it's trailing medium to long in length. I've got a very fresh mouth now. That's a flawless spirit and some very nice aging. And I should say this also, it doesn't say on here, but it's all ex-bourbon. Probably hogsheads. All right, so on to the Whisky Whistle Whiskey score for Glencadam 15. What is that going to be, folks? it's going to be 91 out of 100. You heard it, 91 out of 100 is the Whisky Whistle Whiskey score for Glencadam 15. Needs a malt hug? Yeah, very nice. Good stuff. Happy to have you, and I'm glad you are so complex. I highly recommend grabbing that, especially if you're really into ex-bourbon maturation, and especially if you want to explore the gamut of flavor for ex-bourbon. Wonderful. So we'll segue into Glenmorangie Cadboll Estate. I've had this bottle for quite a while. I drank quite a bit of it, and then I stopped because I wanted to save it for a review. And the reason I was drinking it so fast was I was trying to figure it out, because it is different from your standard 10-year-old Glenmorangie. But let's get into that now together, shall we? So the nose. A lot more leather, vanilla, very light colored caramel. And a similar bunch of fruits, but everything is riper or it's stewed. One could even say that there are some very nice ripe, almost brownish gooseberries in there. Gooseberries are green when they're unripe, and they turn this really neat, rusty, reddy brown hue as they ripen. Fresh almond biscotti. And a little bit more pronounced citrus. Really ripe, sweet Valencia oranges that are beginning to turn alcoholic. So things are really ripening there. Some good leather there as well. Let's get into the palate, shall we? Cheers, folks. This also is a little bit astringent, and that estate barley. How is it different? It's a much tartar, much more tart. I mean, that's better. A much more tart new make, I believe. And I'm guessing it needed 15 years in cask to tame this barley distillate. There's a mintiness, fresh basil, fresh mint, some Korean genip, the perilla leaf that Koreans and people who love Korea like myself really enjoy eating barbecued meat with. And yet there's vanilla there as well. But this sweet mint is really, really present here. Minty, sweet, orange, almond, a little bit of leather on the finish there. Again, a medium to long finish. I feel like the finish on the Glencadam was longer. And we'll add some water. 10 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. 10 drops of water. And we'll shake it up really quick. Give it a little bit of a whiff. Ooh. Some some fresh, like portobello mushroom. A fresh mushroom note there. Or when the mushroom just hits the pan as you're sauteing. Ooh, that's really interesting. Okay. A little bit sweeter, still very tart, still very fruity. This needs more water yet too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 1.5 milliliters of water added to about 30. Okay. Yeah, something earthy, mushroomy on the nose with water added. You notice it especially. Let me know if you notice that too. It's like an orange, an orange buttercream icing. Really intense tart sweetness. There we go. Vanilla, orange buttercream. Again, really intense fruit. Really fruity, intense, sweet finish. It's got a nice crescendo of a finish. I'm getting waves of the fruit and that intense lemon, sweet buttercream type of icing on the finish. Super intense whiskey. These are both extremely intense. But notice what happens when you have unchill filtration. Your whole glass gets pretty gross. But that's okay, because it's good. Maybe a little bit more approachable a nose. This one, the Glenmorangie 15-year-old Cadboll estate is a little bit more, again, a little more savory, earthy, mushroom type of a nose here. With time, things are loosening up a little bit, relaxing. We're losing a bit of that intense astringency and intense tart fruitiness, revealing the fruits a little bit better. It's like citrus with a bit of juicy fruit. Sweet, intense finish. It's a pretty oomphy whiskey. I will give it a preemptive malt hug. Oh yes. And I'm gonna blow it a little kiss. And we'll get onto the Whisky Whistle Whiskey score. I'm holding it, I'll keep holding it. The Whisky Whistle Whiskey score for Glenmorangie Cadboll Estate 15-year-old. What is that gonna be, folks? It's going to be 90 out of 100. You heard it. 90 out of 100 is the Whisky Whistle Whiskey score for Glenmorangie 15. The Glencadam is more complex. The Glenmorangie also is quite complex, but just a little bit less so. And I love the experiment of the Cadboll estate, and I hope we keep seeing that. I think they've had 2 batches of that already. I think that's a great program. I think maybe revealing a little more detail would be great. What type of barley grain that is. And, you know, What does the good doctor think is the difference of the new make? Compare those new make and put something on the label. That would be really interesting information. Something factual. It has more something. Maybe that could be in a leaflet. Does it have more glycol or less? You know, something like that would be neat to know. So 90 points for Glenmorangie, 91 for Glencadam. And side by side here, it's interesting. It's much fruitier. I think it's because I can actually discern the flavors that I'm getting. Whereas over here, there's a lot of really dry astringency that's masking what's coming out of here. And I don't think adding more water will really reveal much. No. Yeah, it keeps that really tight astringent style. You get a little bit more just generic sweetness, but nothing else coming through the more water you add. With the Glencadam, the more water you add, the more exciting and the more interesting and the more enjoyable things we're getting. We went through white chocolate and that buttered toast. So lots of interesting flavors coming through there. So anyway, if you're only going to pick one, I would say try the Glencadam. If you're a super huge Glenmorangie nut like I am, then you'll want to have a bottle of that on hand. So that's my recommendation. Let me know your thoughts. How do you compare these? What are the prices like for you? And which could you see yourself buying again? That's what I want to know. Thanks for watching. My name is Mark Kaufman. We'll see you for the next one very soon. Goodbye now.